Okay, hey, we're live. Welcome, to the stream. Um, didn't stream last week, was too busy. Can't quite remember why I didn't stream, last week now. But the only thing I can imagine was a problem was time and energy, and sometimes you just don't want to be on stream. We've got a few things that we want to try and achieve on stream today, though. So for the next 2 hours, there's a few objectives, and snacking is also one of those objectives. Healthy snacking. I'm just going to put a little pile of, I'm doing goji berries today. With dried goji berries. We've got our cup of tea in our anxiety mug, which was given to me by a very dear friend. Thank you, Bruno. And the other snack item that we have are Marmite peanuts, which are an acquired taste, but I find quite fantastically delicious. So let's do a little snack piles by the side on the desk. Highly unhygienic, but hey. This is where we're at today. Okay, so there's a couple of things that I need to get done. The first thing that I want to try and get done is I know that I've read The Cathedral and the Bazaar before. I know with a level of certainty that I have read it, digested, taken notes. I think I even printed out The Cathedral and the Bazaar and did physical notes on a print copy. But we want to go back over The Cathedral and the Bazaar and read again, because we're looking for a specific quote, or we're looking for a specific passage from The Cathedral and the Bazaar. The specific quote or meaning that we're looking for today is we're looking for the part of the text that refers to and talks about that open source software is often built for the people to solve a problem that the person that has built it is experiencing. So I am a developer, I am experiencing a problem, I build a piece of software to solve my problem, I make it open source, or it maybe initially started as open source, and therefore the purpose of the open source software is initially to, and this is a very popular term, scratch my own itch as a developer. I'm solving a problem that I have. Oh, we've got bots in the channel already. No thank you, cautionary anti-CPV. No thanks. Not interested. At all. But yes, so we're looking for the specific section of the paper that talks about that, and how often when open source software originates as that, when either it grows and stays in that kind of space, or it doesn't grow and it always stays in that kind of space. But essentially what we're looking for is like text around that phenomena of open source software built for and by coders, developers, for coder and developer problems. And then often the thing that isn't, I think, covered in The Cathedral and the Bazaar is like when users are no longer that person, essentially. They're not a coder, developer, or not like, for lack of a sort of better way of explaining this, not as proficient as the maintainers or the founders of the open source software, but they still want to use it. So we're going to look for that, and we want to find that first. That's our first task for the day. The second task for the day is I've been really struggling to get through this is the part of the Red Cross. Doesn't look like there's no The only Red Cross branding you can see here is here. But this is part of the IFRC, disaster preparedness. And this is a page I've been working my way through. And I would really recommend this talk actually about ethics in STEM subjects. There's some really interesting points said there. But I got around this section here, and then I've also opened up, although it needs to reload, this page around disaster preparedness success. And we started writing our responses to this content. So we want to get that finished today as well. There's a number of other things that we want to also look at. We want to have a look at the next Hackathon for Good in November this year, which is in The Hague. We want to get some more information about that. We want to see whether we can use it as one of our case studies in the PhD for hackathons. So we're going to have a little bit of a dig in the website. And then the very last thing, if we have time on stream, is I got halfway through Design When Everybody Designs, an Introduction to Design for Social Innovation by Ezio Manzini. I got just about halfway through this when I started reading it, probably well over a year ago now. And I've made several sort of notes and kind of marks in the various pages. We want to try and get through the rest of the book, but then we also want to apply the S3R method again to this book. We use that method for the corruption of co-design, which you can find the corruption of co-design write-up in my PhD repository here. So we want to do the same process for Design When Everyone Designs. We also want to use the same process, SQ3R, for participation, the new tyranny, which we didn't even get halfway through when I was reading this. But that's the other book that we want to kind of try and work our way through as a matter of like priority. So let's start with the Cathedral and the Bazaar. In fact, do we have the Cathedral and the Bazaar in liquid text? Because if we do, we'll start making some digital notes. It's possible we don't have it in here. Oh, there it is. Yeah, but as you can see, we don't have any digital notes. Okay. And is this the most up-to-date version? Yeah. Okay. This one doesn't, the one in my liquid text doesn't have the foreword by Bob Young. So we'll just have a little read of that first. Okay, we've got some stuff about business. Stuff about open source software bringing freedom. It's quite a short foreword. So this is good. This is a good quote. This is what we want this. We're just gonna chuck it in the bottom here because this is actually something for my day job that I need the quotes for. Quotes for proposal. And that's Bob Young. Bob Young is this chairman and CEO of Red Hat. So then the reason that we like this quote and that we're going to use this quote is what Bob is saying here is that a requirement of open source being able to make a significant change in the world is for it to become widely used, and the other that the benefits this software development model supplied to its users had to be communicated and understood. And I think the thing that's missing here, or the thing that is implied only if you're looking for it, is that for open source software to become widely used, it needs to be communicated and understood to users. And I notice in this small quote that the only reference to software developers is by virtue of naming open source software in terms of software development. So what Bob isn't saying more software developers need to become involved, or the wide usage of open source software needs to be pioneered or spearheaded by developers. They specifically reference users and, again, communicated and understood, which is essentially usability. So that's interesting. We're going to use that quote. But now, the preface. Okay, we might read the preface here. Oh wow, we've got loads more content in the revised edition. When does it start to, what's the word, overlap with my version? Here. Okay, so the version on my liquid text annotation is from the Cathedral and the Bazaar here. So actually, we're going to download this copy. We're just going to take off the author just for my own sanity. We're going to drop it in my downloads folder. And we're actually going to, because we haven't annotated this one yet, what we're going to do is we're going to actually get rid of that version of the Cathedral and the Bazaar, sent to trash. And then what we will do is we'll add the new version to... Oh, it's got a cover and everything. How adorable. Look at that. And we're just going to do some file management here. Off screen. In liquid text. OSS papers. And then we're just going to find Cathedral. Okay, we can't search for it. Delightful. I don't want 2 copies in my filing system, so okay. Old copy trashed in filing system. New copy, wow, blurry as heck. Okay. New copy in liquid text. Get rid of the URL. Scroll, scroll, scroll. The only thing that's really, or one of the many frustrating things about liquid text, that it's not a very good document viewer, which is hilarious. Because it's supposed to be for document viewing. So let's make a comment on this section. Notice there's no mention of developers / coders as the primary or sort of most important pioneers of the adoption of open source software. the focus is on the users, which includes coders / developers, and then a note about communication and understanding reusability. These aspects will allow for meaningful adoption at scale. There we go. Okay. Better quality, more reliable software. What does software quality even mean to the people that build and use it? I find some of the language that's used in some of these like writings about open source software are quite confusing and abstract. Like, so improve software quality. There are so many different ways that you can describe software quality depending on your perspective. And again, it kind of comes down to this fundamental, or this like theory, practice, that open source software is built and made better for the people that build and make it, the build and use it, not the people that just use it, or not the people that could use it potentially. I think I might move my computer a little bit just so you can get like a little bit of cat cam as well. We love a little bit of cat in the shot. There we go. Got some cat in the background having a snooze on the windowsill. Oh, yikes. You definitely could have chosen a better phrase than dumb them down for a general audience. Jeez. I think this needs another revision. Um, I think the meaning is captured here. Okay, some discussion about hacker culture. Okay. Okay. We're gonna read through this section now, hacker culture. But we're not finding what we're looking for. And I don't think what we're looking for is in this section particularly. Jeez. He is said to have once toggled an entire operating system of his own design into a computer of his own design through its front panel switches in Octal without an error, and it worked. Ugh. Real programmer macho supremo. Ugh. God, there's such a weird. It's almost like it's almost like the cultures of sort of masculinity sport got like, what's the word, like adopted by nerd like geek culture and still like lives strongly within that, but like in a, there's a real way to program and a not cool macho way to program. I don't know, it seems a bit reductive. Open source hacker culture. Okay, yeah. MIT. We know about the. Well, I know about the background of open source. Yep, yep. But this, I suppose this story here that I read out, where is it? Seymour Gray. This is a, geez. This is a, oh my good grief. This is an example of like a problem that this specific computer scientist had that they solved for themselves. Scratched their itch. Right, we're going through the Thompson and Ritchie, Unix and C programming. And then we've got all the Stallman stuff. It's always worth rereading the history, though, so, you know. And then all the fighting between the universities. And it's so interesting. I find it interesting that it's all, like, based in, like, academia or, like, out of academic institutions or, like, computer science institutions. Or not all, but, like, a lot of it is institutional, right? So, like, there's this sort of free and open ours to hack and, like, build ourselves, but, like, you know, you're also supported by the salary of an institution while you're doing these things, and it's kind of like, sure. Anyway, right, we're into the Cathedral and the Bazaar stuff now. So the sort of, if I remember correctly, the whole premise of the Cathedral and the Bazaar as like a text, as a thing to read, is that there is like there's the two theories of development style: the Cathedral model of commercial world versus the Bazaar model of like open source software in the Linux world, which is like Cathedral as like structured, hierarchical, documentation to follow, rules, and the Bazaar model, which is like sort of like picking and choosing and building what is needed for the community, and in like response to like needs and things like that. So those are the kind of fundamental things. Oh, and I remember this quote: given enough eyeballs, all bugs are shallow. But we're looking for that specific quote, remember? We're not doing like a deep read of this. We might highlight some sections that we want to highlight for around the PhD topics, but we're mostly looking for the elements that reinforce the scratch your own itch. They're talking about male clients. Ah, here we go. There it is, kind of pulled out. The first lesson. So essentially, he's sort of started the beginnings of a story which go into the first lesson, which he's describing a scenario where he made something other people are using, but he wanted to do something else to it. So look, I think the interesting thing here is that today it supports 3,000 users. Founded. It doesn't say who used it in the early days. It says like it now supports this many users, but essentially he's building something that he wanted to build, or they're building. I'm assuming that they are a he him. And pronouns. Oh, interesting. Ah, this is nice. Yes. You often don't really understand the problem until after the first time you implement a solution. So this is like, this is where design research solves the, or goes some way to mitigate the lost time on implementing in order to test the needs of users. So here, like, the tried and tested way of building open source software is to implement changes, see if they work, or people use them. And if people don't use them or don't like them, then the typical sort of response is, we'll submit a pull request with your own changes to scratch your own itches, and then and then you get to this kind of problem of like bloated, hey CB, yeah, we're going over an iconic essay because we're looking for particular things for we're looking for particular quotes for a funding proposal, actually. But yes, this is where we get to the problem of like, after like 10 years of developers or other people scratching their own itches, you end up with a tool that is like, I guess you could describe it as over-engineered. And then it requires documentation. I mean, one of the things I really like about the Cathedral and the Bazaar text is like that it at the very least kind of pulls out the lessons and principles in like different, like the usability of the key findings. The hierarchy of the text design is actually really, really good. I am doing okay this morning. I managed to stop having migraines over the weekend, although I think it was up to like day 5 or 6 of migraines by the end of the weekend, and I was very poorly yesterday as well. So and Tofu was very poorly. I don't know if you can see Tofu in the background. He's kind of bathed in sort of angelic light. But Tofu was quite poorly last night as well. So we've got a bit of a unwell household at the moment. But we have a lot that we want to achieve. Yes, poor Tofu, but also poor carers of Tofu having to clean up Tofu's mess. Tofu decided to make mess from his body. I'll say no more. But also decided to walk over, like, I sometimes hang clothes on this radiator, and I had put one of my white t-shirts, foolishly, on there, so it is no longer a white t-shirt. Oh, well done for escaping illness. Well done. And yeah, you lost one day of weekend via ACCU. I hope the speaker dinner was good though. The importance of having users, yes. Sorry, just to see. Yes, the importance of having users. Oh, this is a nice little quote here. Users properly cultivated, they become co-developers, but like also contributors that are not developers, perhaps. Funny. Interesting use of the word effective here. And then like the prevalence and focus on debugging. Alright, liquid text, you're having some problems. Oh, interesting. MATLAB is Cathedral mode core and Bazaar mode toolbox. Interesting. So I guess that's like the instance of like having a core open source and like maybe Bazaar mode forks. Yeah, there we go. Open with an open part of the tool that the community can tinker with. Tinker. Oh, dress. Yeah, maybe he might be using code developer in a non-coding sense. I think the tricky thing with reading things like this is you like you can read the language that's used and make assumptions on what it means, but when a person writes like code developer as a example of a like phrase or a word, like they could very well mean anyone and everyone that is a user. But sometimes when it's not explicitly written as like, I consider like, oh gosh, what's the person's name again? I've forgotten. I person regard users who like report bugs as code developers because they're reporting something, or like any level of contribution as code developers. But I sometimes sort of feel like that the reason that I would lean more towards like assuming that code developers means the people that actually code is that the detail that is gone into down here after the word code developers are like effective hackers, shortening debugging time, diagnosing problems, suggesting fixes, improving the code quickly, more quickly than you could unaided. So there's sort of like a suggestion that, you know, reporters of bugs and fix suggestions are considered code developers, but that there is a, what's the word, like elevated position for those that make a pull request or submit code. Anyway, it's, yeah, it certainly is. We all use language that feels like right in our head when we're writing out like thoughts, but it you know, without like picking apart the language, you can't truly never understand. Linus was treating his users as code developers in the most effective possible way. Let's try and figure out what Linus was doing. Okay, we're going to go back. Early and frequent releases are a critical part of the Linux development model. Most developers, including me, used to believe that this was bad policy for larger than trivial projects because early versions are almost by definition buggy versions, and you don't want to wear out the patience of your users. This belief reinforced the general commitment to a cathedral building style of development if the overriding objective was for users to see as few bugs as possible. Then why then you'd only release a version every 6 months or less often and work like a dog on debugging between releases. The Emacs core was developed this way. The Lisp library in effect was not because there were active Lisp archives outside the FSF's control where you could go and find new and development code versions independently of Emacs release cycle. The most important of these, Ohio State Emacs Lisp archive, anticipated the spirit and many of the features of today's big Linux archives, but few of us really thought very hard about what we were doing. Serious attempt around 1992 to get a lot of the Ohio Code formally merged into the Lisp library. Ran into political trouble and was largely unsuccessful. Gosh, don't you just want more than just that one sentence? Right? You just, if somebody says the phrase "I ran into political trouble and was largely unsuccessful," you really want to know what political trouble. Okay, is this a typo? Linus's open development policy was the very opposite of Cathedral building. Linux says our internet archive is a rigid driven by courses. Trains to the most effective release, early release often, and listen to your customers. Interesting. The use of the word customers. User feedback. Interesting. Linus is a damn fine hacker. I kind of want to read this in a southern voice. Damn fine hacker. Ugh. Referring to Stallman as an innovative genius of design. Blah. Sorry. Blah. I mean, you know, the history is very important. It's very meaningful history, but that still doesn't mean that the... I feel like sometimes when we refer to people as innovative geniuses, maybe that is part of the problem that then became the problem if people are referred to as innovative geniuses. Maybe we should have avoided that. If all you have is a hammer, then you will find nails that bother you. I think that this Linus's law, the given enough eyeballs, all bugs are shallow, it's like true, and like more like views and opinions and thoughts on different problems are always going to be like contextually interesting and relevant, but like the tricky thing here is about like in what contexts are the co-developers, the co-creators coming at these bugs from? Because if it's coming from a scratch your own itch perspective, then the interpretations of the shallowness of those bugs are going to be informed by their own experience and not others. So everyone's like, who's doing the... I'm really interested to know who's doing like, if the process is like all these co-developers going, well, I would fix that in that way, I would fix that in that way, this is how I'd fix that, this is the problem that I see, coming from a scratch your own itch perspective, like who's doing the collation and generalization of what is best for as many as possible, which is the interesting kind of nugget of truth that doesn't get talked about in these ways. Maybe it's the maintainer, essentially. The maintainer's role is that of a interpreter. The averaged opinion of a mass of equally expert or equally ignorant observers is quite a bit more reliable a predictor than the opinion of a single randomly chosen observer, the Delphi effect. Interesting. And here we have the barriers and the gatekeep. Here we have basically the read the manual. Participation is decided by a vetting process of can you do the tech thing, essentially. Anyway. Right, we still haven't found what we're looking for. Or use find more bugs. Essentially, what they're trying to describe here is that incredibly serious security bugs were unnoticed for years, even though they were potentially a lot of eyeballs on the code, but in practice, no quality. Yeah, dedicated eyeballs looking for the right things. I wonder if that's a case of so they're basically saying that enough eyeballs, a bug is shallow to a person with criteria that match, right? So criteria being is shallow to that person, or that person can do the process and understand the process of understanding the shallowness of that bug, having done the collection process of perspectives and feedback from the co-developers, so they can understand what the best pathway to solving the problem is, but also that they have the initiative and drive that they want to do that. So I think the thing that is missing here in this part of the text, I don't know if it goes into it later, but it's covered in a lot of other papers, is there has to be the self-determination to want to fix that, and also the knowledge and freedom that you're not gonna get in trouble if you fix it in a wrong way, which is a hilarious phrase, fix in a wrong way. Non-technically inclined readers can safely skip to the next section. Hilarious. Okay. Oh, okay, so this is talking about how people report bugs. They report, I found a bug, rather than I found a bug by doing this, 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 and this on this system with these ways. Interesting. Hey Tofu, how are you feeling? Can you... You don't like my makeup sponge, do you? You always want to knock it off of the radiator. You feeling okay, Tofu? Yeah? Poor little baby. Oh dear Lord, when you look and see how much more of the writing that you have to go through. But yes, this is just about how they did releases and beta testing for fixes. It's so funny because so many of these comments like describe essentially like design. This is like what this is the job of a designer. Like in the commercial world for sure. Oops. Ah! No, don't do that. Often the most striking and innovative solutions come from realizing your concept of the problem was wrong. It's kind of funny. I know I shouldn't laugh at this, but it's kind of like it's enlightening reading this back because it's like again like the like description of a good designer is one that doesn't bring bias into the design considerations of a tool used by any amount of people other than that individual. So this like essentially describes good design practice. Not that anything can be truly unbiased, but like, yeah. It's basically a lot of these papers about like developers discovering like ways of like co-creation and collaboration is like developers discovering like user-centered processes which is great, but it's like I wonder then if the tricky thing, the problem is that I think the thing that I've kind of been thinking about for many years is that the problem then that as much as there is an appreciation for those processes and how useful they are within the projects, essentially, like, those are not processes that these people, humans, want to spend their time doing. They want to spend their time doing the thing that they want to do, which is writing code, or there are other things that lots of humans want to do. But I think the assumption that I'm making is like, is there sort of like a burnout cycle because, or like a cycle of like projects struggling to sustain themselves because essentially the people want to do a particular process, self-determined process, self-determined task, and then find themselves having to do these other things in order to make a project that works for lots of people, and therefore you're basically doing the job of another job that you didn't sign up for. When your code is getting both better and simpler, that's when you know it's right. True. Yeah, I guess I can understand that. Ooh, is that the first use of innovative? I knew that it worked well because I used it every day. And I didn't have to hack it every day. Nice. Those were the days. Yeah, I love reading about these like mail, old like mail projects and stuff. Interesting. But yeah, it's so interesting how quickly like this text is basically a design paper, like a how to do design. Like it starts off as like the typical story of open source, like I made a thing, did the job that it needed to do for me, but then people started using it. Oh, and I had to do these other things, and I looked at how other people were doing it, and so I decided to do those processes, and it worked. And it's like when you look at it, like when you step back from it, it's a really interesting like it's just a human process, right? It's not necessarily a design process. It's like a human process that is funneled through the practice of like the professional practice of design. I don't know if I agree with this like thing here. Any tool should be useful in the expected way, correct? But a truly great tool lends itself to uses you never expected. I think that speaks to like how often. Hey Tofu, what's up? Um, that speaks to how often like different tools are used in non-expected ways. So like when certain tools are, it's not made for this purpose, but I can use it for this purpose, and somehow it works. Oh wow, supports every protocol. Nice. I think I remember listening to some people looking at different mail protocols lately, and that there is a lot of oh no, it was about PGP. It was about various like PGP encryption processes, because I think that there's, is it open mail? There's like two protocols for encrypted mail, I think. Although this was as of like FOSDEM time. K-pop is a male protocol. uh, Watching like, imagine like a load of teenagers, not just teenage girls, but probably teenage girls in more numbers, but like searching K-pop to look for Korean pop music, and then being like, what's this mail protocol? And then suddenly they get really into open source. That would be so fun. Imagine. A few more lessons from Fetch Mail. Some encryption. A security system is only as secure as its secret. Beware of pseudo secrets. Okay. Yeah, okay. So you can't start off just in Bazaar mode. You have to, it's very hard to originate a project in Bazaar mode. It can be done, I think, though, but Need to be able to present plausible promise. Need something testable to play with, yeah. I guess that's why so many things are forked from other things. I think it's critical. I think it is not critical that the coordinator be able to originate designs of exceptional brilliance, but is absolutely critical that the coordinator be able to recognize good design ideas from others. Love that. So the maintainer slash founder slash coordinator needs to be design literate, for lack of a better way of describing it. Oh, look. A Bazaar project coordinator must have good people and communication skills. Okay, I think this might be where we're looking for a quote from, the social context of open source software. The best hacks start out as personal solutions to an author's everyday problems and spread because the problem turns out to be typical for a large class of users. That's what we're looking for. That's the quote we are looking for, roughly. Doop. Should we jot down the page as well? What page are we on, please? Liquid text, page 49. Right, and then arguably, we don't need any more quotes for the funding proposal, but maybe we just see how far we can get down the Cathedral and the Bazaar, just making some highlights and notes. It's not necessarily a bad thing to kind of go through this, although we haven't been doing our due diligence and writing a piece of text. Although, have we already got one in the repository? No, we do not. We should have one. Absolutely should have one. So let's make a new one real quick. Nope. So many different files open, the Cathedral and the Bazaar. We want the link to the paper, but only for the repository. How do we do the links again? Oh, good grief. I've got so many documents open that are like half written paper link. Let's save this where we need to save it as an MD. Paper, books and lectures. Yep, Cathedral and the Bazaar MD. There we go. And we'll do some notes. We'll do some notes afterwards. Figure out how we want to do notes after we've gotten through it. The verb uses brain not close projects going to I like this quote. This quote is nice. Oh, we don't want that bit. We don't want it. Linus's methods. That is, while coding remains an essentially solitary activity, the really great hacks come from harnessing the attention and brain power of entire communities. The developer who uses only his or her or their own brain in a closed project is going to fall behind the developer who knows how to create an open evolutionary context in which feedback, exploring the design space, code contributions, bug spotting, and other improvements come from hundreds, perhaps thousands of people. But also it kind of raises a question of like, why is the goal about moving forward and not falling behind? Like, what is the... I think it kind of calls into question, like, why do people make open source software? Or why do people do stuff? Is it truly for not falling behind? So that's page 50 and 51. So page 50 to 51. But it's an interesting quote nonetheless. Okay, let's go back. Gosh, we're already 11 minutes past 12 today. Right, we're on page 66. We're just going to see how many more pages. Oh, 250. Okay. Good grief. Maybe we won't get all the way through this paper. What was the other thing that we needed to do today? I forgot. I need to get through these pages. Maybe we'll switch to that in a bit. And then the other thing that I need to do is I need to prep some more slides for a talk that I'm giving in June. Provided the development coordinator has a communications medium at least as good as the internet, and knows how to lead without coercion, many heads are inevitably better than one. Interesting. Leading without coercion. Oops, wrong colour. Well, not wrong colour, just not the colour that we're really using to highlight things. We love using pink in software development texts. Ah, interesting. The original Cathedral and Bazaar paper of 1997 ended with the vision above. So this was the last part of the original Cathedral and the Bazaar. And now, have a good lunch. I will be having lunch once I finish stream. Although I may take a quick break for a little bit. Traditionally minded software development managers often object to the casualness with which project groups form and change and dissolve in the open source world. Negates a significant part of the apparent advantage of numbers that the open source community has over any single closed source developer. They would observe that in software development it is really sustained effort over time and the degree to which customers can expect continuing investment in the project that matters, not just how many people have thrown a bone into the pot and left it to simmer. Agree some of that, yes. Magic Cauldron. I think this is the fundamental difference between free and open source software and open source software, right? It's like the whole open source software movement fragmented away from the free and open source software because it started to concern itself with the views of customers. So this is this section of the, I guess not paper at this point, but book, is speaking to like the business side of open source software, or like the business considerations, business like considerations. In this management overhead buying a woman I know who seems to be very good at this job. A woman I know who seems to be very good at this job says these things. I mean, there's a lot of like, a woman I know says software project management, they don't need it. I know a woman and she seems to be very good at this job. I'm sorry, it's so funny sometimes when you stumble across things like that in these texts. I shouldn't laugh, but it's more like a sad laugh. Hmm. Uh, sad laugh. A woman I know. Yeah, these are fundamental critical things for projects to succeed. Funnily enough, these are a lot of the concerns that designers raised in the Open Source Software Designer Diary Studies report. So essentially, the interesting thing here is that this text from a fair while ago is saying that the things that make a software project successful or good, or whatever, has 5 core functions: defining goals and keeping everybody pointed in the same direction, to monitor and make sure details don't get skipped, to motivate people, to do boring but necessary drudge work, to organize the deployment of people for the best productivity, and to marshal resources to sustain the project. And a lot of these things were kind of things that a lot of designers questioned when they got involved in the open source software project. So either they questioned, from a report that I did as part of my work at Superbloom Design, which you can read, there's a repository for it. It's a 40-page report, so not as many pages as the Cathedral and the Bazaar, so slightly less reading. But a lot of these things were things that the designers had questions about, essentially. It's like, who is defining the goals and keeping people pointed in the same direction so that they can also self-serve? Because I think that defining goals and keeping people pointed in the same direction, like, is recognizing that not everyone has exactly the same understanding, capability, and use profile of the open source software, right? So the assumption might be that when you create the open source software, that everyone that is going to co-develop and co-participate will be able to deploy it themselves and use it exactly like how you use it. But then once you the reality sinks in, is that not everybody has the same use profile as you, even if they can deploy it all. So the questions that designers have are, what are the things that matter to these people that are using it actively? But yeah, a lot of these other things also came up from them, like who's organizing things, where are the resources, who's monitoring things, and often that becomes a sort of like a role that not a lot of people want to play, essentially, as a product management role. Under the open source model and its surrounding social context, they can begin to seem strangely irrelevant. We'll take them in reverse order. Resource marshalling is basically defensive. Open source developers are volunteers, not always. Self-selected for both interest and ability to contribute. Yeah, you don't need to play defense, but you still need the resources, like marshal. It helps to have somebody understanding what the resources are, because for example, one of the things that I'm going to try and do on stream today is actually review a submission to this issue that somebody made, except for I don't think that they have given, they've not given me access to the document that they wrote. So let's actually, I can actually respond to this. Can you give me access to your Google document, please? I sent a request for access via my email accounts, or you can open up the document for like public viewing, so I can take a read and make any suggestions. Cool. Okay. Well, that was easy. An easy first response onto this. So I'll assign myself. I think this person wants to be assigned to this document. Let's assign them to it because they have been doing some work apparently. I wonder, I don't mean to be like without even reading the document, but I wonder if how much of this document has been AI generated. Sometimes a lot of contributions nowadays that are about like writing documentation, I've noticed that a lot of them tend to be initially written via like an AI prompt, which is sad. Well, not sad, I guess. If you use the AI to prompt and then write around it, that's okay, I guess. Like, I don't know. I'm still on the fence about a lot of the AI prompt stuff. I think it helps in a lot of ways, but it also doesn't help in as many other ways. Okay, resource marshalling. Open source hackers do not always organize themselves. That's garbage, yo. So this I think is hiding the fundamental thing, which is like open source hackers organize themselves for maximum productivity. They don't always organize themselves for maximum productivity. Self-selection and the social milieu selects ruthlessly for competence, yes, but also selects ruthlessly for like social credibility. This I hate. Open source has been successful partly because its culture only accepts the most talented 5% or so of the programming population. Jeez. What's going on, Toby? What do you see? You're my little guard cat, aren't you? You're my sleepy, eepy little guard cat. My sleepy, eepy little guard cat. Aww, I can't give you pets. Not right now, I'm busy working. That's right, rub yourself on all of my books. Uh, we'll need a good reason to believe that management committees and corporate roadmaps are successful at defining worthy and widely shared goals. Yep. Eep, 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 eep. Why are these people as such? It's so funny because, like, this section of the book is almost like in conflict with the foreword that the CEO of Red Hat wrote, which is like about the use the beneficial use of more people coming, the benefits of more people coming to use open source software and contribute to open source software. And yet this section of the book is talking a lot about, like, only the strongest get to participate, or only the most dedicated. It talks a lot about the kind of hurdles and barriers that it actually takes to overcome contribution into open source. And it's really funny to just see the foreword talk about, like, embracing understanding and access to open source software, and then reading this about, like most people won't, will stop using the software because, they're too weak or whatever. But yeah, oh god, and then they talk about Dilbert. It's such a stereotypical kind of software IT like perspective that it kind of makes me want to groan. But it essentially just says that it sort of reinforces this thing that I think about a lot and talk about a lot, which is like that there are preferred users of open source software and non-preferred users of open source software. So your preferred users of open source software have a pathway to contribution for code, right? That there is a benefit, then a net positive benefit for users to be converted into code contributors. And then there's the users that are non-beneficial. So these are users that don't want to or never will contribute code, and they're the users that are not wanted. So those barriers are put in place for those kinds of users because they don't offer this kind of thinly veiled as like community participation, like, but it's really just about like who is regarded as like a useful user and who is regarded as a non-useful user. And anyone that doesn't have the skills that the project elders consider useful is like non-useful. And you can kind of see that and how that plays out in like very real like issues and comments threads, when like specifically people are talking about like, hey, I'm having trouble just getting this open source software to work on my machine, and then it becomes like about fix your own problems, noob sort of thing. And it's not like, well, what actually, if we helped that person on board onto the project and get their thing working, would we discover a really critical issue for certain people in certain circumstances and then be able to fix it so that we can be more inclusive of different people? And then it becomes like this question of inclusion, which a lot of projects want to avoid having the conversations about inclusion because it is more work. I don't know, blah, 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 blah. Anyway. Oh gosh, if I see like Dilbert referred to once more, I feel like I'm gonna rage quit. Okay. We're talking about Netscape. Yay! Netscape. Oh, it doesn't really talk about Mozilla Netscape very much. Are we going to go into licenses? This is quite a funny first paragraph. Anyone who watches the busy, tremendously productive world of internet open source software for a while is bound to notice an interesting contradiction between what open source hackers say they believe and what they actually, in the way they actually behave. Between the official ideology of the open source culture and its actual practice. Mwah. Like such an interesting, like so real. But yeah. Okay, Tofu, we'll let you out in just a second. We're going to take a little, like, 10-minute break here and take like a screen break. Oh god, Richard Stallman's talked about it again. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, yeah, we weren't going to avoid hearing about Richard Stallman by reading the Cathedral and the Bazaar. But we are going into licensing a little bit. Where are you going, Tofu? Okay. Okay, so this is about the free software and open source. Yeah, and the different licensing. And forking, okay. Right, I think we've got what we need for the work stuff, so we're actually gonna take a little break from streaming. We're gonna come back and we're gonna do something, we're gonna start reading something else, and we're gonna do some other things just to take a break from the Cathedral and the Bazaar. So we'll be back in 5 to 10 minutes. Be right back. Mm. Mm-hmm. I would mute the microphone if I knew how to. So this microphone that I use now doesn't have like a mute button on it on the actual microphone, and I actually can't see in Streamlabs like where the microphone mute button is. So I'll ask Jake at some point. I'll ask Jake to let me know what they think, or where they're where that function is. Sorry, I'm just gonna do some stuff while I wait to start doing. Oh, we got some good news actually that we can share on stream. Oh, almost. Interesting news today that we'll talk about on the last part of the stream. Maybe. Okay. I'm just trying to do scheduling for life, which is really tricky and difficult. Let's see. Maybe. And then we're gonna just check this. Oh, and then we want to check something, but maybe we'll check it on our phones before we talk about it on stream. Okay. Wow. all of a sudden I get lots and lots of messages around just life stuff. I guess that's what happens when you don't look at your devices for, I don't know, an hour and a half to try and actually do some work, isn't it? It's kind of the standard way of doing things. Oh, good grief. And then you spell something incorrectly that you want to maybe talk about on stream. Oh. Oh, maybe. Okay, that I don't think I should or could talk about that. We'll do that off stream because there's only 10 minutes of streaming left to do, and so I had an email from the Penpot people, if folks know penpot.app. It's an open source design tool. They've just released their version 2.0, which is super cool. And we did, me and Namisha, who was the co-author, is the co-author of the Open Source Designer Diary Studies work. We did a podcast episode with them. Well, I think they also maybe published the videos as well. But the Penpot do their open chat. So I think that's going to get published soon, and I need to send them a profile picture, which should be fun. It should be fun. It was really cool to talk to the folks over at Penpot about stuff to do with open source and design, obviously, since they are also very invested in open source and design. Gosh, today seems like a very busy day today. But okay, so we're not going to do that on stream. What was the other thing that we were going to do on stream? We responded to some stuff on open source design. Actually, maybe we'll just have a little quick look and see whether there's anything to merge or respond to on open source design. Still got some pull requests. This one still hasn't been approved. We need somebody needs to review it. Come on, Angelo or Slaptack, please. Oh wait, did somebody make a comment? No. Should I just merge it? Let's at Angelo. Let's see, could you review and merge, please? The open source work is about outing people in comment threads and asking them to merge things. Maybe we also really want to push some of our changes in here. So updates to reading folder. Let's commit to there. Okay, we can push. That's our own repository. We don't need somebody to review that. And then what else do we want to take a look at lately? Let's see whether there's anything in the main repository for open source design to look at. Oh, and then we'll take a look at the hackathon a little bit, because we've only got just around about 10 minutes of the stream left. So we'll see if there's any updates on any issues, because I think there are. And then we'll... Can you sort by recently updated? Okay. I assigned them, so I did that. And then I guess like the last thing that we want to do is we want to go to the forums, and actually part of the contributions to open source design is about making sure that the forum has is doing what we do. I'm doing what I should be doing in the forums. So let's have a look at some of the recent threads. Hello. Hey Alex. Hi there, Alex. Nice to have you with us. If you'd like to be added to any teams, like geographical, regional teams, just message me or at me here with your location and I can add you. India. Oh, so they're based in India, so they could be, I believe we have Indian team, and we've also got a couple of cities specifically, if I remember correctly. Yeah, so we've got India, and then we've maybe got in India, we've got Bengaluru, New Delhi, and Tamil Nadu. So we have these teams that are India based, and then we just do the copy paste. Oh, can we get rid of these? Please. I wish they didn't give us like the same GitHub preview each time. That would be a good. Nice to meet you. Always with the typos, Errol. I don't, if I go on to the Twitters and then go to open source design, I think Agora Kit wanted their thing closed. Let's see. No, it's the Tapas one that wanted the thing closed, so not Agora Kit. Okay. So, this person will need a little bit of assistance, so please email, we don't want that anymore, should be, please email and see what they need and start the process of onboarding to design contributions. There we go. Let's go back into the forum. We don't want the Teams bit anymore. What else do we want to see? Okay. I've got some other stuff that I need to do for open source design at some point. To do with we had a nice email exchange of like somebody that posted a job post many years ago for design contributions to their open source, and they got somebody that was transitioning from a career, I can't remember what career they were transitioning from, and but they were transitioning into like a design career, and they used open source project contributions to help that career transition, which is really, really cool. Okay, sure. They're looking for badge design. Cool. Okay, so we've now done our quick things to do with open source contributions. Yeah, the last thing that we're going to do just for a couple of minutes on stream is just have a look at this hackathon that's happening in The Hague in November, and we're just going to try and get a better understanding of what's going to happen in it. Read more? It just reloads the homepage. No, okay. Marker calendar. So that happened last year. Okay, so this is the old link. Cool. Okay, so yeah, okay, so they still don't have the new one. The last one that they did was in December, and they did one in India in 2022. Cool. They did many things in The Hague over a series of years. Very cool. But what? So returning to The Hague in November. Okay, so oh, okay, coming up. Right, this is the one that we want. Okay. Is there any details? Not really. Start the program. Can we download the program PDF? I don't think we can. Who does this? The calendar. Okay, so they've got a email. We're gonna grab that. We're also gonna head over to some of their social profiles because they've got a YouTube as well. Let's have a little look. Oh, is it working? Yes. Cool. Let's subscribe and maybe have a look at what they did last year. But we're also gonna put this in PhD. There we go. Oh wow, it's a big production that they do. Okay, we'll watch that maybe off stream, and we'll give them a follow. It's about AI and data in the world of humanitarian development and aid. Hopefully, what I'm looking for right at the end of the stream, just to talk about this, PhD related, is I'm looking for whether or not the participants of the hackathon either work on existing open source humanitarian software, or whether they create open source humanitarian software, essentially. So whether or not they already work on it or whether they create it open by default, which is usually the case in, open government and corruption. Did I even write about this in my hackathons? Did I refer to this one? So I did a document which is called Hackathon Situational Awareness. So this is me just kind of writing about the various things online that exist around hackathons. And design and humanitarian human rights open source software. So we didn't write about this one. So maybe we'll add this one to. We're definitely gonna add it to our potential relevant list, and then we will also write about it in the situational awareness document. So let's try and find those documents real quick. We want situational awareness, and we want potential studies. We want these two. Cool. Right, we're gonna go back on the website. We're gonna grab the URL. We are gonna read a little bit more about it for the situational awareness document, but we're also just gonna add relevant as of 2023 into 2024, and we're gonna give another one here, and we're gonna save that, and we're also just gonna kind of have this as some of our relevant reading and blogs. Oop. I'm gonna add a little break there, and we're also just gonna add a little break there for neatness. And we're sadly not going to purchase Sublime Text, and then what we will do is add in the situational awareness a new entry, which is a hackathon for good, and we will add that in. And then we could probably finish up the stream in just a second. We're going to pop that there, and then what we're going to do is do some copy paste, and we're also going to we're not gonna, there's no like formatting, there's just mostly a copy paste effort going on in the situational awareness, but there's no text formatting. Oakley dokley. We're just gonna paste these two reference article and video, and we're gonna pop that one there, and we're gonna pop this one here. Cool. And we're gonna do some thinking and reading about these. But we're gonna finish up the stream, and see y'all next week. And by next week, maybe I will have figured out where I need to mute my microphone, and how I need to mute my microphone on Streamlabs. Cool. Okay. See you next time, folks.